Dad, I hate you. No, those weren't the words that shattered Michael Jordan. What Victoria said next was 1,000 times worse. I'd rather have my poor friend's dad than you. Silence erupted in the twins' luxurious bedroom. Michael Jordan, the man who had never faltered before screaming crowds, felt his legs give out. At least Mr. Beckett hugs Aubrey when she cries, Isabel whispered, delivering the second blow. A waiter. His daughters preferred a waiter to him. Michael surveyed the room. $5,000 toys, imported furniture, everything perfect, everything opulent. You have everything, he choked out. We have everything but a father, Victoria retorted, and each syllable was like glass being crunched underfoot. The man who had won 6 world championships had just lost the only game that mattered. And the score? Percent father. 1. Michael Jordan. 0. He stood frozen in the doorway, watching his daughters turn their backs on him. For the first time in his life, Michael Jordan didn't know how to win a defeat he had orchestrated himself. Michael couldn't breathe properly. Champions don't give up. You don't understand, his voice cracked. I work 16 hours a day so you can have everything. Mr. Beckett works 2 jobs and still takes Aubrey for ice cream every Friday, Victoria shot back. Ice cream. When was the last time he even asked what his daughter's favorite flavor was? He earns crumbs compared to me. Michael tried to defend himself, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Money doesn't hug you when you're sad, Dad. Victoria's words pierced his chest like a bullet. Michael reeled. When was the last time he had hugged his daughters? Then his phone rang. Urgent, Tokyo, flashed on the screen. Just a second, he said, already answering instinctively. No, Victoria shrieked, sitting up in bed. It's always just a second. Always. But Michael was already speaking on the phone, his voice shifting to that cold, professional tone. Jordan here. Yes, I know it's 3 a.m. in Japan. Victoria collapsed onto the bed. Isabel turned her face to the wall. Mr. Beckett would hang up, Victoria murmured, but loud enough for him to hear. Michael froze. He looked at his daughters. In their eyes, he saw something terrifying. They had given up on him. I need to handle this, he murmured, already leaving the room. The door closed softly behind him with a gentle click. On the other side, 2 hearts shattered in the silence of the empty mansion. Michael Jordan had just opted for a contract over his daughters. Little did he know that the consequences would irrevocably alter his life forever. Hours elapsed, 5:30 in the morning. Michael Jordan's alarm clock chimed as always, but this time he awoke with a peculiar weight upon his chest. His daughter's words reverberated in his mind like an unshakable hex. He dressed in the dark, gliding through the house like a spectral millionaire. Each step on the Italian marble echoed hollowly through the corridors, which had cost a fortune to adorn. Paintings by renowned artists observed his silent journey, mute witnesses to a man adrift in his own opulent domain. The gourmet kitchen gleamed under LED lights, state-of-the-art appliances shimmering like precious jewels. Michael prepared his espresso in the $15,000 Italian machine, but the bitter liquid descended his throat like ash. 5:45, the usual time to make his escape before his daughters awoke, before he had to meet their gaze and confront that devastating disappointment once more. Michael retrieved the Mercedes keys, paused at the garage door, and for one fleeting, insane moment, he contemplated ascending the staircase. He considered knocking on the twins' bedroom door. He considered uttering good morning, as normal fathers do. But his phone vibrated, an urgent message from his Tokyo investors. The moment dissipated like vapor. The Mercedes purred to life, and Michael Jordan vanished into the morning mist as he always did, fleeing his own home, fleeing his own daughters, fleeing himself. On the second floor, Victoria awoke to the familiar thud of the garage door closing. Her heart plummeted. Another morning, another flight, another stark choice. Work first, daughters second. Isabel stirred in the adjacent bed. He's gone again. Her voice was barely a whisper in the gloom. He is, Victoria replied, walking to the window. They watched the Mercedes taillights disappear around the bend, carrying away yet another missed opportunity, another squandered chance. Vicky, Isabel whispered, using her childhood moniker. Do you think he ever thinks of us when he's driving? Victoria pressed her forehead against the cold pane. I imagine he's only preoccupied with the troubles he's escaping. And are we one of those troubles? The ensuing silence was more eloquent than any reply. 7:30 in the morning. The housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, rapped on the door with military precision. Girls, breakfast in 15 minutes. The dining table resembled a film set. Hermes porcelain plates, silver cutlery, organic juices in crystal glasses. Everything impeccable, everything costly, everything as frigid as the very heart of the household. Victoria listlessly stirred her eggs Benedict. Isabel meticulously cut her French toast into minuscule pieces, constructing tiny ramparts on her plate. Your father left a message, Mrs. Patterson announced, reading from a handwritten note. Girls' business trip until Thursday. Behave yourselves. Dad. Dad. Victoria repeated the word as if it were venom. When was the last time he signed anything simply as father? Isabel gazed at the empty chair at the head of the table. Michael's chair was always empty. Always. He doesn't even know I have a piano recital on Tuesday, Isabel murmured. Or that I have a science exam on Thursday, Victoria added. Mrs. Patterson, who had witnessed the slow disintegration of that family for 3 years, felt a pang in her heart. She had raised her own children alone after her husband died in the war. Yet they had experienced more paternal presence than the Jordan girls. Girls, we'll be late for school, she said gently, attempting to break the heavy atmosphere. But the twins remained seated, listlessly prodding their food. The gargantuan table seemed to swallow them whole. 2 lost children in an ocean of soulless luxury, shipwrecked in their own home. Mrs. Patterson, Victoria suddenly inquired, do you think Dad loves us? The governess paused, her eyes welling up. Of course he does, darling. Then why does he always leave? Isabel pressed. Why does he never want to stay with us? Mrs. Patterson had no answer, because the truth was too brutal for 11-year-old children. Michael Jordan loved his daughters, but he was too devoted to his work, and that choice was slowly destroying 3 lives. He chose again, Victoria said, her voice small and fractured, echoing through the empty dining room. He always chooses, Isabel concurred, a solitary tear tracing a path down her cheek. What they did not know was that at that very moment, merely 15 kilometers away, another father was making an entirely different choice. A choice that would further expose the bleeding wound in the heart of the Jordan family. The school gymnasium reeked of sweat, determination, and adolescent dreams. The reverberating thud of basketballs on the polished court crafted a hypnotic rhythm, a symphony of exertion and devotion. Victoria and Isabel emerged from practice weary yet invigorated, their $300 Nike sneakers scuffing the floor. Even utterly spent, they found a therapeutic quality in the sport. It was the sole arena where they could channel their frustrations, literally outrunning their troubles. Good practice today, Jordan girls, Coach Williams remarked, tidying up the equipment. You're showing significant improvement. Your parents must be so proud. The twins exchanged a weighted glance. Their parents, as if they even had 2, as if there was any presence for them to be proud of. Thanks, Coach, Victoria murmured, sidestepping the topic. They exited the gymnasium, heavy backpacks slung over their shoulders, sweat drying on their brows, their hearts still thrumming from the exertion. The late afternoon sun gilded the school parking lot, casting long shadows between the vehicles. And then they saw him. Across the parking lot, leaning against a 2008 Honda Civic with a small dent in the driver's door, stood Beckett Monroe. His server's uniform from the Golden Spoon restaurant still carried the scent of kitchen grease and afternoon spices. Sauce stains adorned his crumpled apron, testament to a long day waiting tables. But the moment Beckett spotted Aubrey emerging from the gym, something magical transpired. His weary face underwent a complete transformation. The lines of worry softened, his slumped shoulders straightened, and his eyes lit up as if the sun had risen solely for him. It was like watching someone become an entirely different person, transfigured by love. How was practice, Princess? He inquired, opening his arms with a smile that illuminated the entire parking lot. Aubrey Monroe, sweaty and disheveled, sprinted as if taking flight. She flung herself into her father's embrace with a force that nearly toppled him, and Beckett held her as if she were the world's most cherished treasure. It was an embrace that stretched into an eternity of seconds. A hug from a father who genuinely missed his daughter. A hug from someone who regarded every reunion as a blessing. An embrace the Jordan twins had never, ever experienced. Victoria felt something fracture within her chest. When was the last time her father had embraced her like that? When was the last time his eyes had shone with such brilliance upon seeing her? "Daddy, I sank 8 three-pointers today," Aubrey exclaimed, her face alight with exhilarated pride. "And Coach said I can try out for a starting spot on the varsity team next semester." 8 baskets? My daughter's going pro." Beckett let out a hearty, infectious laugh. He kissed his daughter's sweaty forehead, unfazed by the perspiration or the locker room scent. To him, it was the sweetest fragrance on earth. "And Coach Thompson said I have a natural knack for leadership," Aubrey continued, her words tumbling out in a torrent of enthusiasm. "Of course you do," Beckett replied, gently brushing a strand of hair from his daughter's face with infinite tenderness. "You take after me and your mother. We're a family of fighters." Aubrey beamed, her face alight with the pure, unadulterated smile of a cherished child. "Dad, will you be able to make it to Friday's game? I know you work the night shift, but—" "Princess," Beckett interjected, his large hands gently cupping her small face. "I wouldn't miss your game, even if the restaurant went up in flames. I'll ask Jimmy to swap shifts with me. But you'll lose out on your Friday tips." "Aubrey Monroe," Beckett said, his voice firm yet imbued with love. "There's no amount of money in this world that could ever supersede the joy of watching my daughter play. Not a single penny." Isabel jabbed Victoria forcefully, whispering, her voice thick with emotion. "Did you see how he looks at her? As if she were the most precious thing in the entire world." Victoria felt a strange, potent ache in her chest, a mixture of envy, sadness, and something she couldn't quite articulate. When was the last time her father had looked at her like that? When was the last time she had felt she was the most cherished person in anyone's world? "And you know what else?" Beckett continued, still embracing Aubrey. "After the game, we'll celebrate at McDonald's. Just you and me, talking about how your week went. Even if I don't play well, especially if you don't play well," Beckett replied with earnestness. "Because that's when we're most in need of support, isn't it?" Aubrey nodded, tears of happiness glistening in her eyes. She was a child who knew, unequivocally, that she was loved unconditionally. It was then that she noticed the Jordan twins standing a few feet away, observing the scene, their faces a tableau of fascination and pain. "Dad, these are my friends from school," Aubrey said, waving. "Victoria and Isabel Jordan." Beckett turned, an arm still draped over his daughter's shoulders. "Ah, the famous Jordan twins. Aubrey talks about you constantly at home." There was something in the way he spoke, a genuine kindness, a palpable curiosity about them. It wasn't the polite but detached tone most adults adopted with wealthy children. This was genuine interest. "Hi, Mr. Monroe," Victoria managed to utter, still grappling with what she had just witnessed. "Please call me Mr. Beckett," he smiled. "And tell me, how was your practice? Aubrey informs me you're quite adept at basketball." It was a simple question, yet delivered with genuine attentiveness. His gaze was fixed solely on them, not on his watch, not on his phone, but on them. It was good," Isabel stammered, unaccustomed to such genuine adult engagement. "Jordan girls," Aubrey exclaimed suddenly, as if a brilliant idea had just occurred to her. "Do you want to have dinner at our place tonight? My mom made lasagna. She always overcooks and gets annoyed when there's too much left over." Victoria and Isabel exchanged bewildered glances, taken aback by the invitation. Dinner? In a home other than their own? With an actual family? Beckett smiled at the twins. "Of course you can come. There's always room for 2 more at our table." "Always room." The words resonated in Victoria's mind. When was the last time anyone had ever told them there was always a place for them somewhere? "Denise will be absolutely thrilled," Beckett continued. "She adores cooking for a crowd. We'll just give your parents a call to confirm it's all right." The twins exchanged another glance, a silent communication passing between them. "You can call." Victoria murmured softly. Beckett retrieved a modest cell phone, its screen visibly cracked. What's the number? Victoria recited it, but both girls knew the truth. Michael Jordan wouldn't even register his daughter's absence. He was in some office, in some meeting, anywhere but truly present in their lives. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Mr. Jordan, this is Beckett Monroe, Aubrey's father. Beckett spoke into the recorder, his voice respectful yet imbued with warmth. Your daughters are here with us, and we'd like to extend an invitation for them to join us for dinner at our home tonight. I'll leave my number in case you wish to call me back. They are in excellent hands. We promise to look after them well. He hung up and smiled at the girls. There, we'll send a text message as well, just to ensure he knows your whereabouts. Yet everyone present knew the devastating truth. Michael Jordan would likely not even glance at the message until well into the night. And when he did, he would feel a sense of relief at not having to concern himself with his daughter's dinner. So it's settled, Aubrey cheered, clapping her hands. We're going to have a celebration. As they walked toward the dented Honda, Victoria watched Beckett help the 3 girls into the car, ensuring their seatbelts were securely fastened and inquiring about their comfort. And for the first time in their lives, Victoria and Isabel Jordan were on the cusp of discovering what it was like to dine with a genuine family. A family where the father was not only physically present, but emotionally engaged as well. What they didn't know was that this evening would irrevocably alter everything. The Monroe home was situated in a neighborhood the Jordan twins had never before frequented. Small, aged houses lined the narrow street, featuring modest yet meticulously tended gardens and old but immaculately clean cars parked in cracked concrete driveways. It was a world completely different from the Jordans' secluded mansion, yet there was an immediate, palpable sense of life there. Children played on the sidewalks, neighbors chatted over low fences, and dogs barked boisterously from backyards. The Monroe house could fit twice over into the Jordans' living room. Its exterior paint peeled in places, the wooden porch creaked gently underfoot, and the screen door was patched with duct tape. But when Beckett opened the front door and the twins stepped inside, they felt something their climate-controlled mansions never had: human warmth. Denise, Beckett called out, we have special company for dinner. Denise Monroe emerged from the diminutive kitchen, drying her hands on a faded floral apron. Deep circles under her eyes were a testament to her 2 jobs: nursing at the hospital by day and cleaning the commercial building 3 times a week. But when she saw the twins, her fatigued face lit up with genuine delight. Welcome to our home, she said, spreading her arms wide as if she had known them for years. I hope you enjoy somewhat lopsided lasagna, which is all I managed to whip up between shifts. Victoria and Isabel glanced around the room. The sofa bore careful patches on its sides. The television was a small, antiquated tube model. The curtains were sun-faded, and the rug evinced years of wear. But photographs were ubiquitous. Pictures of Aubrey at various ages, smiling, cradled in her parents' arms. Photos of the family at park picnics, unpretentious birthday parties, everyday moments someone had deemed worthy of perpetual preservation. At the Jordan Manor, the only pictures adorning the walls were formal, professional portraits, where everyone seemed to be posing for a home decor magazine rather than celebrating moments of genuine joy. Please make yourselves at home, Denise urged, plumping cushions on the patched-up sofa. Aubrey, show your friends to your room while I finish the lasagna. Aubrey's room was minuscule compared to the twins' expansive suites. It featured a single bed adorned with a handmade patchwork quilt, a small, scratched wooden desk, and improvised shelving constructed from planks and bricks. Yet the walls were covered with drawings, school certificates, photos with friends, movie tickets, cherished mementos of a richly lived life. Each object recounted a story. Every corner exuded joyous memories. Sorry about the clutter, Aubrey apologized, gathering a few scattered books. Dad always maintains that an overly neat room signifies a rather uninteresting life. Victoria gently touched a drawing affixed to the wall. A family of 3 holding hands signed, "To the best dad in the world," by Aubrey, 8 years old. Did you draw this? She inquired. Yes, Aubrey responded. a hint of embarrassment in her voice. Dad has kept all my drawings since I was little. He says I'll be a famous artist one day. Isabel meticulously examined the photos strewn across the wall. In every single one, Aubrey was laughing. In each, at least one of her parents stood beside her. In every image, unadulterated joy was palpable. When was the last time they had laughed like that in a photograph? Girls' dinner! Denise's voice resonated from the kitchen. The dining table was small and aged, its wood bearing the marks of years of use. Yet it had been lovingly arranged. Cloth napkins, mended yet pristine. A vase of garden flowers at its center. Simple dishes, though lovingly presented. So Victoria, Beckett began, serving the steaming lasagna, making sure to offer her the first portion. Tell me, what is your dream in life? Victoria nearly choked on her soda. No one ever had posed such a question to her. Not her teachers, not her governess, and certainly not her father. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, she stammered. Of course you can, Denise encouraged, settling beside her husband. Here at this table, all dreams hold significance. I want to be a veterinarian, Victoria declared, her voice gaining resolve as she spoke. I want to care for injured animals. I want to save them. Why a veterinarian? Beckett asked, leaning forward with genuine interest, as if the answer were the most crucial thing she would hear all day. Victoria surveyed the attentive faces around the table. For the first time in her life, she felt that someone genuinely wanted to hear her answer. Because animals are honest. They truly love, or they don't. They don't lie. They don't pretend. They don't disappear when you need them most. The silence that followed was laden with understanding. Beckett and Denise exchanged a look that spoke volumes about what they had gleaned regarding the Jordan girls' lives. That's a beautiful answer, dear, Denise said softly. And you, Isabel? Isabel nervously stirred the lasagna on her plate. I want to write books, stories where people genuinely care for one another. What kind of stories? Aubrey asked, genuinely curious. Stories of happy families, Isabel whispered. Families where parents truly know their children, where people embrace and converse and are present. Beckett set down his fork, his eyes welling up. Do you know why your dreams are special? The twins shook their heads. Because you want to heal the world. Victoria wants to heal animals. Isabel wants to heal hearts through stories. Both of you have chosen professions of love. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. At home, whenever she mentioned wanting to be a veterinarian, she was told that animals don't pay well, or that she'd change her mind when she grew up. My father always says dreams don't pay the bills, Victoria murmured, echoing words she had heard countless times. The ensuing silence was heavy. Beckett rose from his chair and knelt beside Victoria, his hands calloused from hard work, resting gently on the girl's shoulders. Sweetheart, whoever said dreams don't pay the bills never understood that there are far more important bills than money. What bills? Isabel asked, her voice small and brimming with hope. The bill of happiness, Denise replied, her voice soft yet firm. The bill of purpose. The bill of waking up every day knowing you're building something that truly matters. The bill of looking in the mirror and liking the person you see, Beckett added. The bill of having peace in your heart when your head touches the pillow at night. Aubrey held both twins' hands. My parents always say that the only true poverty is not having dreams. Victoria looked around the small table, at the modest home, at the family who had so little materially, but overflowed with something she didn't even know existed. Are you poor? She asked, with the brutal honesty of a child. Beckett and Denise laughed, not with discomfort, but with genuine joy. In terms of money? Yes, we are poor, Beckett admitted, but in everything that truly matters, we are millionaires. What do you mean? Isabel asked, bewildered. Denise pointed to the photos on the walls. We are rich in memories, rich in time together, rich in conversations like this one, rich in hugs and laughter and moments that no one can take from us. And above all, Beckett added, looking at Aubrey with overflowing love, we are rich because we know our daughter. We know her fears, her dreams, her favorite songs, her inside jokes, what makes her cry and what makes her laugh. In that moment, something devastating crystallized in the minds of the Jordan twins. They lived in a multi-million-dollar mansion, yet they were emotionally orphaned. They had everything money could buy, but nothing that truly mattered. And the Monroes, even without an extra dime, were millionaires in everything that made life worthwhile. "May I ask a question?" Victoria said hesitantly. "Always," Beckett encouraged. Would you, would you adopt two more daughters?" The question tumbled out before she could stop herself. The silence that followed was charged with emotion. Denise stood and embraced both twins at once. "Darlings, you will always have a family here. Always." And for the first time in their lives, Victoria and Isabel Jordan felt truly at home. The next day, the twins had an appointment with Dr. Alicia Brooks. She had 20 years of experience as a school psychologist, but had rarely seen children as lost as the Jordan twins. Her small but cozy office at the school had walls covered with student drawings, plants scattered in the corners, and a calming energy that invited confidences. "How was dinner at Aubrey's house?" she asked, observing the twins seated on the small two-seater sofa. Victoria and Isabel exchanged glances, still processing the previous night's experience. How could they explain that they had discovered a completely new world? How could they describe the feeling of being heard, valued, loved by people who barely knew them? "It was different," Victoria began hesitantly. "Different how?" "They asked us questions," Isabel said softly. "Real questions. Not about our grades or if we were behaving well. About our dreams." Dr. Brooks leaned forward. "And how did it feel to have someone interested in your dreams?" Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. "It was as if for the first time someone thought we mattered. Not because of Dad's money or his fame, just because it was us." "Mr. Beckett knelt down beside me to talk," Isabel added, her voice trembling. "When was the last time our father did that? When was the last time he truly looked me in the eyes?" Dr. Brooks picked up a notepad, but not to write. It was an automatic gesture when she was processing important information. "Girls, may I ask a question that might seem strange?" They nodded. "What do you think makes a father truly rich?" Victoria frowned. "Our father has a lot of money. He's one of the richest men in the country." "That's not what I asked, Doctor." Brooks responded gently, repeating a technique he had learned years ago. "I asked what makes a father rich, not financially. Rich as a person, rich as a father." The silence stretched. The twins had never considered it that way. Isabel was the first to speak. "Mr. Beckett, he has almost nothing. He works as a waiter, his car is old, his house is small. But Aubrey—" "What about Aubrey?" Dr. Brooks encouraged. "She beams when she talks about her father," Victoria completed. Her eyes light up. "She tells funny stories about the two of them. She loves being with him. And you two, how do you beam when you talk about your father?" The question was like a punch to the gut. Victoria felt the air drain from her lungs. We don't talk about him. There's nothing to say. When we try to tell our friends anything about our father, all we can say is that he's famous and rich," Isabel added, tears streaming down her face. "We don't know anything else." Dr. Brooks set down his notepad and moved to the chair closest to the girls. "Do you know the difference between being rich and being prosperous?" They shook their heads. "Rich is having a lot of money. Prosperous is being successful in everything that matters. Family, relationships, love, connection, presence, purpose." Victoria processed the words. "So our father is rich, but not prosperous. And Mr. Beckett is prosperous, but not rich," Isabel completed. "Exactly," Dr. Brooks confirmed. "And now that you understand that, the question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge?" Victoria straightened up in her chair, a new determination gleaming in her eyes. "We're going to confront our father. For real this time. Not just complain. We're going to make him understand what he's missing." "But not alone," Isabel quickly added. "Last time he just retreated to his phone. He needs to hear it from someone he respects." Dr. Brooks observed the transformation unfolding before his eyes. The girls were ceasing to be passive victims and becoming agents of change. "What kind of person do you think your father would respect?" "Someone he can't ignore," Victoria said, her mind already at work. "Someone who truly understands fatherhood. Someone like Mr. Beckett." Dr. Brooks suggested. The twins exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Do you think he would help? Isabel asked. He seems like the kind of person who helps when someone is in need, Victoria replied. Dr. Brooks rose and walked to the window, observing the children playing in the courtyard. Girls, you are about to undertake something immensely courageous. But remember, you cannot compel your father to change. You can only show him what is at stake. And what if he doesn't want to change? Isabel inquired, her voice small and tremulous. Then at least you will know you tried, Dr. Brooks replied with candor, and that in itself is more courageous than many people manage to be in an entire lifetime. Victoria rose, determination radiating from every pore. Dr. Brooks, may I use the school phone? For what purpose? To call Mr. Beckett. If we are to save our father from himself, we need the assistance of the man who truly understands how to be a father. What they didn't know was that Beckett Monroe harbored a history that would not only touch Michael Jordan's heart, but utterly shatter it. The small red brick church stood at the heart of the Monroe neighborhood, its stained glass windows filtering the golden afternoon light into kaleidoscopic patterns on the worn wooden floor. The scent of candles and hope permeated the air, mingled with the gentle fragrance of flowers someone had brought from their own garden. Beckett Monroe was kneeling on the floor, meticulously arranging donated toys into cardboard boxes. His hands, calloused from hard labor, handled each doll, each toy car, each puzzle with a tenderness as if they were precious treasures destined to bring joy to less fortunate children. Mr. Beckett? Victoria's voice echoed through the empty nave. He looked up, surprised to see the Jordan twins standing at the church entrance, accompanied by an older man in a simple suit. Girls? What brings you here? This is Reverend Thomas Hayes, Victoria stated, her voice firmer than usual. He said he could assist us in speaking with you. Beckett rose, wiping his hands on his work apron. Of course, please sit. There is always time for you. It was this very phrase, there is always time, that pierced the twins' hearts every time they heard it. When was the last time someone significant in their lives had uttered such words to them? They settled into the church pews, the colorful light from the windows painting soft rainbows across their faces. Mr. Beckett, Victoria began, her hands trembling slightly, we need to know something personal. Beckett inclined his head, giving his undivided attention. You may ask anything, girls. I have no secrets. Isabel took a deep breath. How did you learn to be such a good father? Why are you so present? The silence that followed was laden with ancient, profound sorrow. Beckett looked at his hands, then at the simple wooden crucifix on the wall behind the altar. That's a difficult question, he finally said, his voice softer, because the answer still pains me to this day. Reverend Hayes placed a reassuring hand on Beckett's shoulder. Tell them, my son, sometimes sharing our pain helps to heal the pain of others. Beckett stood and walked to one of the windows, watching the children playing in the small park outside. I learned to be a good father by being everything my father wasn't for me. The twins exchanged glances, recognizing a familiar resonance in the anguish of his voice. My father, Thomas Beckett Monroe Sr., was the executive vice president of the largest construction company in the state. Beckett continued, still with his back to them. Wealthy, powerful, respected, always traveling, always in meetings, always indispensable to everyone, except for me. Victoria felt a pang in her stomach. The story was painfully familiar. I was 8 years old when he missed my first school play. I was the lead, a small prince who saved the kingdom. I rehearsed for weeks, memorized every line, every gesture. Beckett turned, tears glinting in his eyes. I was on stage, wearing my golden paper crown, looking out at the audience, searching for him. Isabel held Victoria's hand, both knowing exactly how this story would end. All the other fathers were there, filming with huge cameras, applauding, shouting their children's names. My father's chair was empty as it always was during every significant moment of my life. What did you feel? Isabel asked softly, though she already knew the answer. That I didn't matter, Beckett replied, his voice cracking. That business meetings were more important than I was. That his work mattered more than his love for me. That I had a price, and my price was very, very low. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. She knew that feeling, knew it intimately. Beckett returned to the bench and sat down heavily. After the play, I went home alone. My mother was working. She was always working too. I locked myself in my room and cried until my tears ran dry. "And then?" Victoria inquired, though a part of her dreaded the answer. "Then I did something that irrevocably altered the course of my life," Beckett said, looking directly into the girl's eyes. "I knelt beside my bed, still in my prince costume, and swore a solemn oath to God." Reverend Hayes nodded, familiar with this chapter of the narrative. "What oath?" "I vowed that should I ever be blessed with children, they would never, ever experience the profound pain I endured that night. They would never gaze upon an empty chair and believe themselves inconsequential. They would never question the authenticity of their father's love." The silence in the chapel was profound, imbued with ancient promises and sorrow transmuted into purpose. "And you honored that vow," Victoria whispered. "Without fail, every single day," Beckett replied, his voice resonating with conviction. "Every one of Aubrey's performances, every match, every discussion about her day, every goodnight embrace. For I gleaned a crucial insight from that dreadful evening. Fatherhood transcends material provisions. It hinges on one's unwavering presence." Isabel leaned forward. "But that must have presented considerable challenges. The demands of work, the financial strain." "Indeed," Beckett conceded. "There were nights I toiled until 3 in the morning, striving to recoup the hours sacrificed for Aubrey's recitals. And there were months we subsisted on instant ramen, a direct consequence of my prioritizing presence over additional earnings." "And was it ultimately a worthwhile endeavor?" Victoria asked. Beckett offered a genuine smile, the first since he had embarked on his narrative. "Victoria, to witness my daughter's countenance radiate joy upon my return from work, to feel her rush into my arms with an embrace as effortless as breathing, to have her confide her secrets, knowing I will always lend an attentive ear. It is worth every single cent I forwent. It is worth every promotion I declined. It is, quite simply, beyond measure." Reverend Hayes interjected. "Beckett, recount for them the lesson gleaned from your time at the restaurant." Beckett let out a soft chuckle. "Ah, yes. Girls, my tenure as a waiter imparted the most profound lesson regarding fatherhood." "How so, pray tell?" Isabel inquired, her curiosity piqued. "At the restaurant, my role is to serve. Not to be served, but to serve. It entails being acutely attuned to people's requirements, anticipating their desires even before they articulate them, and ensuring they feel valued and genuinely cared for," Beckett elucidated. "And I realize that fatherhood is precisely this. It is serving one's children with love, being acutely attuned to their needs, and ensuring they feel like the most vital individuals in your orbit." A profound realization dawned upon Victoria. "That's why you invariably inquire about our day, our aspirations." "Because it is my vocation to truly know you," Beckett interjected. "Not merely as an employer or provider, but as someone who genuinely cherishes who you are at your core." The twins remained silent, absorbing the profound revelation. At last, Victoria mustered the courage to articulate the question that had been haunting her. "I learned to be a good father by being everything my father wasn't for me." The twins exchanged glances, recognizing a familiar resonance in the anguish of his voice. "My father, Thomas Beckett Monroe Sr., was the executive vice president of the largest construction company in the state." Beckett continued, still with his back to them. "Wealthy, powerful, respected, always traveling, always in meetings, always indispensable to everyone, except for me." Victoria felt a pang in her stomach. The story was painfully familiar. "I was 8 years old when he missed my first school play. I was the lead, a small prince who saved the kingdom. I rehearsed for weeks, memorized every line, every gesture." Beckett turned, tears glinting in his eyes. "I was on stage, wearing my golden paper crown, looking out at the audience, searching for him." Isabel held Victoria's hand, both knowing exactly how this story would end. All the other fathers were there, filming with huge cameras, applauding, shouting their children's names. My father's chair was empty. Empty as it always was during every significant moment of my life. What did you feel? Isabel asked softly, though she already knew the answer. That I didn't matter, Beckett replied, his voice cracking. That business meetings were more important than I was. That his work mattered more than his love for me. That I had a price, and my price was very, very low. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. She knew that feeling, knew it intimately. Beckett returned to the bench and sat down heavily. After the play, I went home alone. My mother was working. She was always working too. I locked myself in my room and cried until my tears ran dry. And then? Victoria inquired, though a part of her dreaded the answer. Then I did something that irrevocably altered the course of my life, Beckett said, looking directly into the girl's eyes. I knelt beside my bed, still in my prince costume, and swore a solemn oath to God. Reverend Hayes nodded, familiar with this chapter of the narrative. What oath? I vowed that should I ever be blessed with children, they would never, ever experience the profound pain I endured that night. They would never gaze upon an empty chair and believe themselves inconsequential. They would never question the authenticity of their father's love. The silence in the chapel was profound, imbued with ancient promises and sorrow transmuted into purpose. And you honored that vow, Victoria whispered. Without fail, every single day, Beckett replied, his voice resonating with conviction. Every one of Aubrey's performances, every match, every discussion about her day, every goodnight embrace. For I gleaned a crucial insight from that dreadful evening. Fatherhood transcends material provisions. It hinges on one's unwavering presence. Isabel leaned forward. But that must have presented considerable challenges. The demands of work, the financial strain. Indeed, Beckett conceded. There were nights I toiled until 3 a.m, striving to recoup the hours sacrificed for Aubrey's recitals. And there were months we subsisted on instant ramen, a direct consequence of my prioritizing presence over additional earnings. And was it ultimately a worthwhile endeavor? Victoria asked. Beckett offered a genuine smile, the first since he had embarked on his narrative. Victoria, to witness my daughter's countenance radiate joy upon my return from work, to feel her rush into my arms with an embrace as effortless as breathing, to have her confide her secrets, knowing I will always lend an attentive ear. It is worth every single cent I forwent. It is worth every promotion I declined. It is, quite simply, beyond measure. Reverend Hayes interjected. Beckett, recount for them the lesson gleaned from your time at the restaurant. Beckett let out a soft chuckle. Ah, yes. Girls, my tenure as a waiter imparted the most profound lesson regarding fatherhood. How so, pray tell? Isabel inquired, her curiosity piqued. At the restaurant, my role is to serve. Not to be served, but to serve. It entails being acutely attuned to people's requirements, anticipating their desires even before they articulate them, and ensuring they feel valued and genuinely cared for, Beckett elucidated. And I realize that fatherhood is precisely this. It is serving one's children with love, being acutely attuned to their needs, and ensuring they feel like the most vital individuals in your orbit. A profound realization dawned upon Victoria. That's why you invariably inquire about our day, our aspirations. Because it is my vocation to truly know you, Beckett interjected. Not merely as an employer or provider, but as someone who genuinely cherishes who you are at your core. The twins remained silent, absorbing the profound revelation. At last, Victoria mustered the courage to articulate the question that had been haunting her. Mr. Beckett, would you help us save our father? Save? Beckett queried, his brow furrowed in confusion. He is lost, Isabel clarified, tears streaking her face. He remains oblivious to what he is forsaking. He fails to recognize that he is merely recapitulating the very patterns his own father inflicted upon him. Beckett leaned in, gently resting a hand on each girl's knee. What precisely do you envision? We hoped you would recount your narrative to him, Victoria stated, her voice growing more resolute. If he were to hear of the vacant chair, of the solemn vow you undertook. Perhaps then he might grasp that there remains an opportunity for transformation. He must comprehend that true affluence is not measured by one's bank balance, Isabel appended. It is rather what you cultivate within the hearts of your progeny. Beckett cast a glance toward Reverend Hayes, who offered a silent, affirming nod. Girls, Beckett declared, a rising tide of resolve in his tone, I shall do more than merely recount my tale to your father. I shall confront him in the singular manner that men of his ilk truly comprehend. How? Victoria inquired. I shall demonstrate to him that he is forfeiting the sole contest of true import in life, Beckett rejoined. The competition for the very affection of his own progeny. The strategy meticulously crafted in the ensuing minutes would represent Michael Jordan's ultimate opportunity. And this time, evasion would be impossible, for he would be confronted unequivocally by the reflection of the man he might have become had he chosen a different path. Michael Jordan returned home at precisely 11:15 on a Thursday evening, adhering to his customary routine. The familiar hum of expensive tires traversing the gravel driveway resonated through the silent night, succeeded by the gentle thrum of the Mercedes engine being silenced within the temperature-controlled garage. Yet upon unlatching the front door, he instantly perceived a profound deviation from the norm. The living room lights were ablaze, an occurrence unprecedented after 10 o'clock in the evening. Soft music played on the $40,000 sound system, and there were voices, conversations, life in his sepulchral home. Michael stopped at the entrance to the marble hall, his Italian leather briefcase slipping from his hand. His daughters were seated on the $15,000 sofa, still awake, conversing animatedly with two men he didn't know. What the hell is going on here? His voice emerged louder and harsher than he had intended, echoing through the room. The silence was immediate. Victoria and Isabel turned towards him, but instead of the usual fear, there was determination etched on their faces. Hi, Dad, Victoria said, rising. You need to meet some people. Michael eyed the strangers in his home. A black man of about 45, wearing simple, clean clothes, his hands clearly calloused from manual labor. Beside him, an older man in a modest suit, his clerical collar almost imperceptible. This is Mr. Beckett Monroe, Isabel said, also rising, and this is Reverend Thomas Hayes. Michael felt irritation rising in his chest like bile. It's far too late for visitors, and I don't recall authorizing anyone to enter my home. Dad, Victoria said, her voice firmer than Michael had ever heard it, they are here because we asked them to be, and we are going to talk. Now, not tomorrow, not when there's time. Now. Michael glanced at the Rolex watch on his wrist, an automatic gesture when he sought to evade uncomfortable situations. Girls, it's almost midnight. You should be asleep, and these gentlemen should be in their own homes. No, Isabel shrieked, her voice echoing through the house like an explosion. No more you should. No more, it's not time. No more excuses. The echo of Isabel's shriek, the quiet, observant daughter who rarely raised her voice, reverberated through the mansion's walls like an alarm siren. Michael was utterly paralyzed. In 11 years, he had never witnessed Isabel erupt like this. Reverend Hayes rose calmly, his presence filling the space with silent authority. Mr. Jordan, your daughters sought me out because they are desperate. They feel they are losing their father forever and no longer know what to do. They have everything they need, Michael uttered automatically, the words spilling out thoughtlessly, like a broken record. Father, Victoria interjected, tears already streaming down her face. You may have all the money in the world, but Mr. Beckett is wealthier than you. Michael felt a strange, potent rage surge through his chest, intermingled with something he couldn't identify. Fear? A waiter, he uttered the word as if it were a profanity, is wealthier than I? Have you both completely lost your minds? Because he possesses his daughter's genuine love and respect, Isabel added, her voice sharp as shattering glass. When Aubrey speaks of her father, her eyes sparkle. When we try to speak of you, we can't. We have nothing to say. The stark, unvarnished truth erupted into the air-conditioned room. Michael reeled as if struck squarely on the jaw, his face paling beneath his artificial tan. Beckett stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. Mr. Jordan, May I ask you a question? Michael eyed him warily. What do you want? When was the last time you truly embraced your daughters? Not a fleeting goodbye hug, but a genuine embrace where you paused everything you were doing and simply held them. Michael's mouth opened, then snapped shut. The question caught him entirely off guard. That's none of your concern. And when was the last time you inquired about their dreams? Not about grades or behavior, but about what they genuinely aspire to be when they grow up. Listen here, Michael began, but Beckett gently interceded. And when was the last time you instinctively knew they were sad, without anyone having to tell you? Each question was a sharp blade slicing through Michael's defenses. He felt cornered in his own home, exposed by a stranger who seemed to know his daughters better than he did. Reverend Hayes opened a plain leather folder. Mr. Jordan, with your permission, I would like to read something your daughters wrote about you. No, Michael said quickly, but Victoria cut him off. Father, please. Listen. Just once in your life. Listen. Reverend Hayes cleared his throat and began to read in a soft yet clear voice. My father is too busy to know me. He buys me things, but he doesn't know that I have nightmares every time he travels. He believes love is about expensive gifts, but I merely wished he knew I craved hugs, not toys. I wanted him to understand that when he departs in the morning without a farewell, I stand by the window weeping. Signed, Victoria Jordan. The paper trembled in the Reverend's hands. Michael felt as though someone had torn open his chest and ripped out his heart with bare hands. And this one is from Isabel, the Reverend continued. I love my father, but I believe he doesn't reciprocate my affection. True love demands time. His time is invariably for others, never for me. I dream of becoming a writer so I can craft stories about fathers who truly know their daughters, because I don't know any in real life. Signed, Isabel Jordan. Michael collapsed into the leather armchair, the letters fluttering in his hands like leaves in the wind. The man who had conquered the world, commanded empires, and never lost a pivotal negotiation was utterly undone by 2 sheets of paper penned by 11-year-old children. What? What do you want from me? He whispered, his voice fractured and unrecognizable. We want a father, Victoria stated with devastating simplicity. Not a provider, not a famous name, not a bank account. A father. Our father. Beckett moved to the chair opposite Michael's, looking directly into his eyes. Mr. Jordan, may I recount a story? Michael nodded weakly, not trusting his own voice, and Beckett began to narrate the tale of an 8-year-old boy, adorned as a prince in a school play, gazing at an empty chair where the most important father in his life ought to have been. When he finished, Michael Jordan was weeping. Thick tears streamed down the face of the man who had vowed never to display weakness before anyone. My God, he whispered, I have become my own father. And in that moment, Michael Jordan finally comprehended that he had spent 11 years amassing a fortune while simultaneously losing his daughters. The question that terrorized him was there still time to mend what had been shattered? The answer would emerge with the next decision he made. And this time, there would be no second chances. 3 weeks after the confrontation that irrevocably altered everything, Michael Jordan did something that stunned not only his daughters, but his entire team of advisors. He canceled a $20 million meeting to appear, on a gloomy Saturday morning, at the small red brick church of the Monroes. His black Bentley resembled a spaceship parked amidst the neighborhood's modest cars. Children from the block ceased their play to observe the famous man emerging from the vehicle, his expensive attire starkly contrasting with the simple yet welcoming surroundings. Beckett nearly dropped the box of toys he was carrying upon seeing Michael standing at the church entrance. Mr. Jordan, what are you doing here? Michael was visibly ill at ease, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the knot of his $500 Italian tie. My daughter said that you teach fathers to be better. It was difficult for him to admit. Michael Jordan, the man who never conceded not knowing how to do something, was publicly acknowledging his inadequacy as a father. The silence stretched for long seconds. Beckett scrutinized Michael's face, searching for signs of sincerity. He perceived something he hadn't expected to find. Genuine humility mingled with paternal desperation. "I don't teach anything," Beckett finally replied, setting the box down on the ground. "I merely demonstrate that being present is a choice we make every moment, every day." "I don't know how," Michael confessed, his voice cracking in a way that caused several heads to turn. "I know how to close multi-million-dollar deals. I know how to command entire corporations. I know how to win in any competition, but I don't know how to hug my daughters without it feeling awkward. I don't know how to talk to them without discussing school or money." Victoria and Isabel, who had been observing discreetly from behind a church pillar, felt their hearts pound. He had admitted it. Publicly, in front of strangers, their father had finally confessed his inability to be a father. Beckett surveyed the church surroundings where dozens of children of all ages ran, laughed, and played under the supervision of volunteer parents. "Mr. Jordan, would you care to assist us with the underprivileged children's project today? Your daughters have been helping since early morning." Michael observed the chaotic scene of joyful children. When was the last time he had heard his own daughters laugh like that? When was the last time he had seen them interacting naturally with other children? "What do I need to do?" he inquired, and there was a discernible vulnerability in his question. "Just be present, truly present," Beckett replied. "Not as Michael Jordan, the renowned businessman, just as an adult willing to play." What ensued were 3 hours that irrevocably altered Michael Jordan's life. He found himself sitting on the cold church floor, his designer trousers getting smudged with crayons and glue, assembling puzzles with children who had no idea who he was or how much money he possessed. To them, he was simply a tall adult willing to sit on the floor and listen. "Uncle," a 6-year-old girl named Sarah tugged at his sleeve. "Can you help me find the blue sky piece?" Michael looked at the tiny piece in the child's grubby hand, then at her hopeful face. "Of course, princess. Let's look together." The word princess came out naturally without a second thought, and when the girl smiled in response, Michael felt something stir within his chest that he had forgotten even existed. It was then that Victoria approached tentatively. Her father was on the floor, genuinely playing, not checking his watch, not answering his phone. "Dad, can you help me with this part of the puzzle?" Michael looked up and, for the first time in years, truly saw his daughter. He saw how much she had grown, how her face was changing, how there was uncertainty in her eyes as she approached him. "Of course, sweetheart," he said, and the word sweetheart came out so naturally that both were surprised. "Show me what you're trying to do." Isabel watched from a distance for a few minutes, then slowly joined them on the floor. And for 40 magical minutes, Michael Jordan didn't think about business, money, missed meetings, or squandered opportunities. He thought only of his daughter's smiles and how he had missed those smiles without even realizing it. When one of the younger children stumbled and hurt himself, Michael was the first to rise. "Hey, champ, let me see," he said, kneeling beside the tearful boy. "I don't want a Band-Aid," the boy sobbed. "How about I tell you a secret?" Michael said, his voice turning conspiratorial. "Magical Band-Aids work best when you tell someone what your dream is." "What's your dream, champ?" "I want to be a basketball player like you," the boy said between sobs. Michael paused. The child had recognized him, but in a pure way, without interest in money or fame. "Do you know the secret to being a great player?" The boy shook his head. "Practice every day, be kind to your teammates, and always remember that the most important game isn't against other teams." Michael carefully applied the Band-Aid. "It's against yourself. Strive to be better today than you were yesterday." Victoria and Isabel watched the scene, tears welling in their eyes. It was the first time they had ever seen their father being paternal, caring for someone simply because that person needed care. Later, as he helped organize the toys, Isabel approached tentatively. "Dad, would you be able to come to our school play next week?" Michael paused his stacking of games and looked directly at his daughter. "What day and time?" "Thursday at 3 in the afternoon, Isabel replied, braced for the usual excuses. "I'll be in the front row," he promised, and his voice carried a solemnity that made Isabel believe him for the first time in years. "And afterward, we can go for ice cream, just the three of us. You can tell me all about the rehearsal, what you liked best, what made you nervous." Victoria stepped closer. Dad, you know we don't have to go somewhere expensive, right? The neighborhood ice cream parlor is perfectly fine. Michael smiled, a genuine smile, not the professional one he reserved for meetings. Honey, I learned something today. It doesn't matter where you go. It matters who you're with. And in that moment, Victoria and Isabel knew that something had fundamentally shifted. It wouldn't be easy, it wouldn't be perfect, but for the first time in their lives, they held genuine hope of having the father they had always longed for. The man who walked out of the church that day was not the same one who had walked in. Michael Jordan was beginning to grasp that the greatest victory of his life lay not in any trophy or bank account. It was waiting for him at home, in the form of two girls who simply yearned to be loved by their own father. 6 months had elapsed since that transformative morning at the church. The change had been slow, at times painful, often imperfect, yet undeniably real. The first alteration was simple yet revolutionary. Friday dinner became sacred in the Jordan household. No matter what meetings arose, what opportunities presented themselves, what emergencies sought to commandeer his attention. Promptly at 7 on Friday evening, Michael was seated at the table with his daughters. No phones, no laptops, no excuses. Just Michael and his daughters discovering each other as if they were strangers, slowly evolving into a true family. Dad, Victoria remarked on one such Friday, thoughtfully stirring her pasta. Did you know I sometimes have nightmares? Michael paused his chewing, his fork suspended midair. It was the first time she had shared something so intimate, so vulnerable. I didn't know, love. What do you dream about? The word love still sounded strange coming from her mouth, but with each use, it grew more natural. About you disappearing forever, Victoria whispered. About waking up one morning and finding out you'd left for another country permanently and would never come back. Michael's fork trembled in his hand. He set it down on his plate, his throat suddenly tight. Victoria, I would never. Why would you think that? Because before, you were always leaving, she responded with the brutal honesty of a child who had suffered too much. Every morning, every business trip, every time the phone rang, you were always going out, always had somewhere more important to be. I know that now, she continued, tears glistening in her eyes. But the nightmares still come sometimes. It's as if my heart still doesn't fully believe you'll stay. Michael rose from his chair and without a second thought, embraced his daughter. Not a polite, quick hug, but a real embrace, where he held her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Victoria, I promise you, before God and your sister, that I will never disappear like that again. I may travel for work, but I will always come back. I will always say goodbye. You will always know where I am and when I return. Isabel watched the scene, then joined the embrace. Dad, I have a confession too. Go ahead, princess. I had nightmares about you forgetting our names. I dreamed that you mistook us for other children, that when people asked about your daughters, you wouldn't know what to say. Michael felt as if someone had punched him in the stomach. He pulled back slightly to look into the eyes of both girls. Girls, I am so sorry. Truly sorry. I thought that giving you everything materially was the same as giving love. I was completely wrong. Daddy, Victoria said, using a word that hadn't come naturally to her for months, do you want to know a secret? Michael nodded, not trusting his own voice. We would trade all of this, she gestured to the mansion around them, for you to be present at home. We'd rather live in a small house like Aubrey's, eat instant noodles, and have you here than have all of this and always be alone. The confession struck Michael like a lightning bolt. He had built an empire to impress his daughters, to give them the best of everything, and was now discovering they would trade every brick of the mansion for a few genuine hugs. You've taught me that being a rich father means being rich in time, not in money, he said, tears streaming freely down his face. It means truly knowing you, knowing that Victoria wants to be a veterinarian because she loves animals, that Isabel wants to write books about happy families because she dreams of it. Isabel stood up and hugged her father from the other side. And you're learning, Dad. Slowly, but you are. Do you know what else I learned? Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. I learned that you two are the bravest people I know. You stood up to an adult who was wrong and weren't afraid to speak the truth, even knowing I might get angry. Victoria and Isabel exchanged glances over the hug. We were scared, Victoria admitted. But we were more scared of losing you forever. And you saved me, Michael said. You saved me from becoming the kind of man who has everything and nothing at the same time. Dinner grew cold on their plates, but none of them cared. For the first time in years, Michael Jordan felt truly victorious, not for having won a competition or closed a deal, but for having won back the love of his own daughters. They established new rituals. Every Thursday was story night, where each person shared something about their day, not about work or school, but about feelings, dreams, fears, small joys. Every Sunday morning was special breakfast, where Michael cooked pancakes, burning half of them at first, while the girls told terrible jokes that made everyone laugh until their stomachs hurt. And every night, without exception, Michael went upstairs to say goodnight to his daughters. Not a good night yelled from the hallway, but a complete ritual, asking about their day, listening to concerns or joys, telling a silly story, giving a real hug, and saying I love you while looking them in the eyes. The first few times were awkward for everyone. Michael didn't know how to hug without seeming mechanical. The girls didn't know how to respond to genuine attention. But over time, it became everyone's favorite part of the day. One night, 3 months after the new rituals began, Isabel asked a question that changed everything. Dad, are you happy now? Michael stopped adjusting her covers. Why do you ask that? Because you seem different. You smile more. You laugh at our terrible jokes. You seem lighter. Michael sat on the edge of the bed. You know, Isabel, for the first time in my adult life, I am genuinely happy. Not merely satisfied, not just proud of accomplishments, truly happy. And you two are the reason. Even though you have less money now? Victoria inquired from the adjacent bed. Because you're turning down some business opportunities to be with us. Michael chuckled. Daughters, I've discovered something no business school ever teaches. The money you earn by sacrificing family can never buy back lost time. But the time you invest in family multiplies into enduring happiness. And in those simple moments, making terrible pancakes on Sunday, helping with homework at the kitchen table, watching silly movies snuggled on the couch, Michael Jordan finally understood what it meant to be truly wealthy. And thus, Michael Jordan finally became what he was always meant to be. Not merely a successful man, but a truly rich father, rich in love, time, presence, and in the absolute certainty that his daughters loved him not for what he possessed, but for the man he had chosen to become. True wealth, he had discovered, was not found in banks or investments. It resided in the small hands that trusted his, in the spontaneous embraces at the end of the day, in conversations that stretched late into the night, and in the absolute peace of knowing he would be there again tomorrow. Has this story transformed your perspective on fatherhood and family presence? If you believe that time is worth more than money, that embraces are more valuable than expensive gifts, subscribe to the channel and share this message with other parents who need to hear this. Together, we can inspire a generation of truly wealthy parents, wealthy in love, presence, and dedication. Your subscription helps us continue telling stories that touch hearts and transform families. Because ultimately, the only legacy that truly matters is the love we engrave upon our children's hearts.